if someone is looking to improve their jiu-jitsu performance, I would not suggest training for competitive powerlifting to be the best way to do that.
Now, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and deadlifts are about the coolest ways you can spend your time, but should you be training both? Probably not. Why? Well, we have roped in Chad Wesley Smith to answer this hotly debated question as to whether or not you should be training powerlifting to improve your jiu-jitsu. Chad Wesley Smith is a sports performance coach who has been a two-time collegiate national champion in the shot put and a national champion in track and field. He's consultant for the British Olympic track team. One year he had the #1 overall draft pick in the NFL Combine, but his specialty is powerlifting. He's posted top 10 all-time totals in reps with 1,055 kilograms and in sleeves at 1,010 kilograms. He's also the founder of Juggernaut Training Systems, a training company that's actually developed an AI-fueled app to help you balance strength training and jiu-jitsu, because Chad Wesley Smith is a die-hard jiu-jitsu practitioner and regularly rolls with world champion black belts in the sport, including these guys here, whose names I'm just going to put on screen because I won't be able to pronounce them because they're Brazilian and I am terrible at foreign languages.
You want to see how much you can squat, bench, and deadlift, that's fine. Do that, knowing that it's not the best thing to do. Is training for powerlifting performance going to make you better at jiu-jitsu than doing no lifting at all? Definitely. I wouldn't suggest training with powerlifting as your focus if your real focus is being the best you can at jiu-jitsu.
Squat, bench, deadlift. Those three exercises are definitely among, if not the best exercises for developing a lot of power and a lot of strength. And strength is the foundation of an athlete's skill set. A lot of strength helps you develop a lot of other athletic qualities, including explosive power and strength endurance. And explosive power, strength endurance, and maximal strength are the three qualities you want to train outside of jiu-jitsu to get better at jiu-jitsu. Now, as for powerlifting, the sport, it's a little bit tough to talk about whether or not powerlifting improves jiu-jitsu because people approach these sports differently. Some people compete in powerlifting and do jiu-jitsu recreationally. Some people do it the other way around. Some people just do both recreationally. And this is why it's best to get a coach here. And also, this is not medical advice either. It's best to get specialists involved in your own sports training. But look, let's just say you like doing both sports. Smith's advice is you should actually train both on the same day.
The most significant thing that they can do is smartly structure their week of training. And to do that, they're going to want to consolidate those most intensive stressors to the same days. So whether that's training for competitive jiu-jitsu and using the powerlifts to support that, or doing powerlifting training for fun or wanting to compete at a recreational level in powerlifting, when you have your hardest jiu-jitsu day, you also want to put your hardest powerlifting days.
That may seem counterintuitive, but your other option is to train them on separate days. Then you've got what? Squat day, jiu-jitsu, bench day, jiu-jitsu, deadlift day, jiu-jitsu.
How will you ever recover from that? Because your hard jiu-jitsu day and you need to recover from that, but now you put a hard powerlifting day, so there's no recovery built in. But by consolidating those intensive stressors to the same day, now you have recovery built into your program.
So Monday you train jiu-jitsu and you have a hard squat workout. On Tuesday you do some tempo work on a bike or maybe in the pool to develop aerobic capacity, which facilitates recovery. Then Wednesday you have another hard day, maybe with benching and jiu-jitsu. Then Thursday, again, you go low, and then high on Friday, low on Saturday, and then take Sunday completely off. But there's a lot of variation here. Stronger people actually need more time to recover because, well, they're putting more weight on their body. If you're hitting 90% of your 1 rep max squat, and that 1 rep max is 350 pounds, then you're going to recover more easily than someone who's squatting 90% of their 1 rep max of 700 pounds.
So they may go high, low, medium, low, high, low, off kind of thing throughout the week, if you could follow that, while someone who's lower level in both,
as in they're less skilled in powerlifting and less skilled in jiu-jitsu,
their highs aren't as high, so their lows don't have to be as low. So that's the biggest consideration to make is organizing the week strategically so recovery is built into the week. The relative difficulty of the sessions shouldn't all be identical, so you can kind of modulate those throughout the week.
And the same goes for jiu-jitsu. Doing 90 minutes of live training, going as hard as you possibly can, might not be a good idea every day.
No, some days, live training would be appropriate. Some days more specific positional training, which is going to be a little bit less taxing and more controlled, and some days, just positional drilling at controlled intensity.
Again, you've got to modulate your training based on the intensity and how much time you as an individual will need to recover. And you might have noticed this is a lot of training to get quite good at both sports. So you might want to pick one sport and do the other one at a lighter intensity, just like 1 or 2 days a week. But again, this is all very individual. But let's get broader here. Is it a good idea to combine powerlifting and jiu-jitsu? We've been talking about people who want to combine the two, but is it actually ideal if your goal is to get better at jiu-jitsu? The thing you got to remember is that jiu-jitsu practitioners tend to beat up their lower back and shoulders and wrists quite a lot. And almost every other body part, but those 3 areas do get a lot of stress.
My low back is beat up from playing the guard a bunch, because that involves so much like spinal flexion, lumbar flexion and rotation. There's just like orthopedic surgeons or something who look at the positions you get in jiu-jitsu, they're like, well, that's bad. That's just not a good place to be. I'm definitely of the mind that when I turn my body in at the end of my life, it's going to be well worn. I'm sure I'll pay for that later, but so be it.
So the low back gets pretty beat up during conventional deadlifts and also back squats as well to a degree. Also with back squats, it can be quite hard to get the bar into the correct position if you've got really beat up shoulders, if your mobility has been compromised from like a lot of training, a lot of rolling and so on. And then even if you want to switch to front squats, it can be quite hard to get that mobility in the wrists when you got beat up wrists from a lot of jiu-jitsu. So the idea here is to modulate. Now, strength training is a good idea for jiu-jitsu, let's be clear. As I mentioned, strength is great. Maximal strength is an important athletic quality that will enhance many other areas of your athleticism that are important for jiu-jitsu. If you're designing a strength training program for jiu-jitsu though, Smith, who does design lots and lots of strength programs for jiu-jitsu, says you want to focus on these movements. Some variety of squat, hip hinge, upper body push, upper body pull, twisting exercises, and carrying exercises, which is pretty much what you'll see in any general physical preparedness training program. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, you want to make sure you're not aggravating areas that might already be aggravated. So instead of a back squat,
so shifting more of your squat training to like a safety squat bar could be a good consideration to make there. If your low back gets really beat up in jiu-jitsu, being maybe shifting more of your squat training to a front squat or a high bar squat variations is going to be useful.
You also want to do plenty of single leg stuff as well, because a lot of jiu-jitsu happens on one leg. So Bulgarian split squats, for example, is a very good exercise for this. And you also want to really make sure you're balancing squats and deadlifts the right way. Again, deadlifts can be tricky on your low back, so you might find yourself doing more squats than deadlifts.
Or maybe more of your deadlift training needs to just be technique work, or from blocks, do some sumo deadlifting that day, or maybe forego deadlifting that day altogether, do very, very light stuff from the floor.
For hip hinge movements, Smith also really likes trap bar deadlifts, which are a lot easier to learn than conventional deadlifts, and they also are easy on the lower back and give you really nice hip extension as well. Hip thrusts are also a really good exercise here. You can load a lot of weight onto your hip extension, and also they mimic bridging as well. For upper body pushing, really important, helps you to build strong frames. Bench presses can be useful. If you've got tricky shoulders though, you might want to consider using a slingshot, but a really good idea is to do more neutral grip benching. So like benching with a Swiss bar or with dumbbells. Smith also really likes dumbbell Z presses here because it helps to work mobility and stability for sit-up guard. As for twisting, exercises with like barbell Russian twists and med ball twisting slams, carrying exercises like single arm farmer's walk or sandbag front carries are going to be really good additions to your repertoire. And remember, we're not even talking about the other types of training you might want to consider outside of jiu-jitsu class, like stuff like your explosive power work, for which kneeling jumps can be really useful, or strength endurance, for which sled pushes can be really great, or mobility work like Cossack squats. Like, this video is kind of complicated enough as it is. We're just talking about maximal strength training here. The kind of stuff you can go heavy on and get a lot of stimulus with. And remember, maybe most importantly of all, realize that as good as your training program is, some days you might not be feeling it. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep, you didn't get the right nutrition, or just like you're feeling a bit more beat up. On days like that, it's definitely important to go lighter and maybe do more accessories, or maybe not even train at all. It's really important to listen to your body with this one.
Once you've got that great plan in place, know that it's not written in stone, that happens, and you get in weird positions, or you go a little too hard, or whatever it may be, and those sort of micro adjustments within the session are very, very important, and that's something that I struggle with, is following my own advice in this situation. But it is the right thing to do. I'm going to go a little bit lighter today, or I'm going to change the movement slightly to something that I can do effectively today. So I live to fight or live to lift another day.
All right, I hope that was useful for you guys. Powerlifting is great and it can be very helpful, but if you're doing two sports, you wanna make sure you're not over-aggravating areas of your body that are getting hit hard in both sports. Again, like the lower back, shoulders, wrists, and so on, but like especially your lower back, that area can be a bit tricky. So do strength training, but modify it to your needs. I want to thank Chad Wesley Smith for coming on the channel today. I put a link to his YouTube playlist below where he has a whole bunch of videos about applying strength training to jiu-jitsu you can check out. And I also put a link to Juggernaut Training Systems where, again, he has an app that's like has artificial intelligence to help you modify and work strength training into your jiu-jitsu training program. So that's it. Make sure you subscribe here as well. We've got a lot more fitness and training and nutrition videos coming up, and happy rolling.